You can do that. The back traffic's fine. I saw a video yesterday.
Are we starting?
Yeah, I saw a video yesterday-ish. Jack Eichel when he's 16 in the gym. So it was a like a voiceover video of the. Did I turn that on? Yeah, I did. Is it running red at the top? Okay. It was a trainer doing like a voiceover video of Jack Eichel training when he was like 16.
Okay.
What a unit. He
was a unit?
A unit. Like
really?
Fast, explosive,
yeah.
Like powerful. You can just do whatever. This is gonna be in the episode now. So just do you, man. So what the trainer was saying was like, okay, so if you get a guy like this when he's 16 and he's lifting heavy, like he's snatching a lot, he's cleaning a lot, and he's like powerful, very powerful. What the guy that was doing the video was saying, like, whoever was not taking anything away from the person training him, but he didn't necessarily work for that ability to do that. Like he has it's like those guys that are like, the player did not train to have that. Like there's just a genetic component of they're really, really, really powerful. That happens to be the case. It's the same thing with you see guys that have that speed, like the Connor McDavid speed. That guy was fast like that since he was like 10. So like did they train for that? They trained, and I'm sure it helped and all of that, and maybe kept the gap that they have on other people, whatever. And the trainers that they have, I'm sure, were helpful. But the bottom line is there was a component of this where they just had it. They were born and had this whatever kind of gene mutation that allowed them to be that powerful, fast, and whatever. So it was interesting to watch him at whatever 16 throwing around 100-pound dumbbells and throwing around 2.25 plates on a clean. And it's like I can't.
And he's 16.
16, you know. So he was saying for a lot of trainers, you get kids like this, or if you're fortunate enough to have a kid like this, your job is to not screw it up and just let them do what they're doing, you know. But a lot of people that would look at a guy like Eichel, the way he skates and all that, it's like, can you train? This is a question you always ask. Like, can you train that? Can you train to be like that? And I don't think so. Like, there's a.
The answer to that, in my opinion, is no, because if you could, there'd be more.
100%.
There are more Connors and more Jack Eichels, right, and more whoever else is fast.
Yeah, and I'm a training guy. Like I fully believe in all that training stuff, 100%. But there's just that intangible that some guys have. So it was a really interesting video. I had never seen that before of Jack Eichel specifically. Like I've seen some stuff along those lines, but it was interesting to see. He looks the same when he was 16 as he is now. Huge legs, like just solid athlete, man.
That's
like,
just it. Like
athlete.
Him and I were just talking about that yesterday, right, Charlie? I saw an interview with Shaq O'Neal. Shaq, right?
7'8".
Yeah, and it was a financial interview, but like a casual one, right? And they were just the guy's done phenomenal in his life, and so the guy said, "You got advice? How would you start off?" And he goes, "It's not actually fair for me to say this is how you start off becoming wealthy." He goes, "Because I was given a gift of being basically 7'2", and I just played some sports, and most people don't start off their financial career with 5 million, 5 billion, or 5 million, or 2 million, or 1 million. He goes, I was able to screw up and blow everything once, and then say, okay, let's get real. Yeah, right. But anyways, and so we were just talking about, so my kid's pretty big. He's 6'2". So, but what a difference if you're 6'4", eh, Charlie? He goes, yeah. He goes, imagine if you were 6'1" or 6. I go, yeah. Like he goes, those little things make a big difference, right?
Yeah.
Just being tall.
Yeah, it is. It's
just
interesting.
Being long arms, whatever things are to your advantage, right? Like sometimes you're just blessed, and sometimes you're not. And we just talked about it. I was talking with Dalton and Charlie and a couple of guys the other day about the 0 to 1 effect. It's such a great thing to understand. It's just having something to get you to 1 instead of being stuck at 0 and mucking it so hard to get to from 0 to 1, right?
Yeah. What's that? The Bible quote? To whom? No.
Much is given and much is expected.
No, not that one. It's something along the lines of whoever has more gets more, whoever has less gets less, or whatever. It's almost exactly that. Like you get the one skill or one quality that allows you to get a little bit of an edge, and then like opportunity starts just coming to you in that domain because you have that. And some people just are fortunate enough to have it, and some people don't. have an easy start, right? They have to work and scrap to try to get their one, and some guys are just born and then they are 7 feet tall.
Well, it's funny because we were talking about that the other day too. The first Charlie was saying that the guy in his team was saying, "Why doesn't your parents just get you a car?" And just like when he was younger, right? And he goes, "Well, because my parents just didn't give me a car." He goes, "Well, why don't they just give you a car?" And it's like, I was explaining that to Charlie again. I said, "That's that 0 to 1 factor." I said, like, if if you're a kid that you grow up in a house like ours, our type of family, and you're like, that's what you call middle class and up. And they could help you get, like, you want to get a job and stuff like that, or go to school. Having a vehicle to even borrow to get places is a massive step to what some other people can have. So like, you can make fun of people, or you can easily judge people, but you don't know. Like, I remember hanging around with a guy that played hockey with me too, but his dad owned an automobile. What do you call it? A car fix it.
Like a garage.
Garage.
An
He's
automobile.
got a garage, and a really fairly successful alignments and brakes and all that stuff. And when he'd pick us up, or we'd go anywhere, and for him it would be like, "Oh, we're gonna go here. Let's go do this. Let's do this." And I had to work in the morning and all that kind of stuff, and I couldn't afford a car because I helped my mother take care of bills at home and stuff like that. That's at a very young age. And he could look at me like, he would look at me like, "Well, what do you mean? We'll just go." It's like, well, but he had a brand new truck all the time. And when you go to the gas station, he just put on the card and we go somewhere, and his dad would pay for it after. And if he needed money, his dad would just use the card because he'd write it all off. Well, that's 0 to 3. So you get to do whatever you want. So whereas, other people that don't have that luxury, they might just to get a job. And I know it's like, most people don't even, well, most people listening to this would never understand that, but a lot of people that just to get a job have to get to their job. So does that mean getting on a bus? Does that mean walking? Does that mean asking for a ride? Does that mean hitchhiking? Does that mean, how do you get there? And so you can judge people all you want, but if they were born in a family where you're at the 0, that's a challenge. So it might not because they're lazy that they don't have a good job, or they're just trying to get there. And some jobs they might not be able to get to because it's just too inconvenient or too hard to get to. So you're stuck. What do you do? You walk across the street and you ask the restaurant for, "Can I wash dishes?" Or, do you do something very simple? Is this extreme? I don't know, but it's the 0 to 1 effect. So if you got to look at the things that you're fortunate with. So we were just talking about the 0 to 1, but like you said, Eichel, that's a gift that a lot of people never get. Zdeno Chara being 6'9", that's pretty cool. Now he worked his ass off, but 6'9".
Yeah,
that's a pretty good advantage.
Yeah, I was just thinking while you're talking, there's somebody I was talking to a while back. I was trying to get them to meet them at Tecumseh Arena, and they lived in South Windsor. And they're like, "Well, I got to take the bus, so I got to see like what bus route gets me there." And so turns out the bus didn't go far enough. So like I'll have to leave and then walk 35 minutes from the closest bus station that I can get to in order to get there. I'm like, so like, on a daily basis, if you had to do that, I'm like, that's going to add an extra 3 hours potentially of transit to your day. 3 hours. What a pain in the ass that is, And so you think about that. That was exactly what was running through my head when you were saying that story of like, there's these little things that you take for granted. You have a shooting lane at home. You have ice. You have a gym membership that your parents pay for, or whatever perk is getting you that thing that you don't have to just figure out on your own. Like, it's such a huge advantage, man. And just a little thing like having a car to get you where you need to go is crazy, man.
My wife said this a few times. She goes, "Yeah." She saw a city bus, right? She goes, "I've never taken a bus before." Well, we live in the county. She grew up in the county, so there's not really buses. But I go, "No." And she goes, "Have you?" And I go, "Yeah, we grew up on buses, right?" My mom would go to the bus station or the bus stop that was like kind of kitty corner from where we lived, and we'd wait, and the bus would come, 3 of us, because we had to go to the doctor's. And we go downtown, 10 stops, go to the doctor's, come back in.
Yeah, takes you an hour. Takes you an hour to go
to 15
10 minutes.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you get some of these kids, you got to buy a bus pass or whatever, and that's an extra $400. If it's $400 a year or something, you got to pay for a bus pass. Like, that sucks. And so,
and look at, like, even through this business, right? We have clinics and we have gym and all those kind of things. And where my son's 0 to 1 maybe is, but definitely is that not that he got it he had to get here. right? As long as he came to the place, he was going to do the work. But he had
here. You had a
but
playground
yeah,
here.
but because if I didn't have this business, I don't know if I'd be willing to or could afford to. I don't know if I could afford to have him skate as often as he did. Probably not. And then I don't know if it would ever have made sense to me. Number two, to have you as his trainer, like that would have been a lot more expensive than I would have probably been willing to pay. But his 0 to 1 is that he had not anything given to him, but access to
Yeah,
working
access
hard.
for sure. Well, think about with the conversation we had yesterday. It's like the conversation we had yesterday in the gym with him. Like now he's at the age where guys are falling off. Like guys aren't hockey players anymore, right? It's you're 19, 20, 21, 22. It's like it's dried up. There's not that many left, and so you're trying to get your workout group together. It's like you show up in the summer, and for the first time, it's like, wow, there's not too many guys that are going to come work out anymore. So if I have to go somewhere else to get like another group of, or if I got to go somewhere else to skate and get like a real competitive group of guys that are high level, I'm going to have to pay some good dough for that. I'm going to have to. And so for the first time, it's like, wow, shit. Like this thing that was my 0 to 1, it's like, this is my first time I've had to think about that.
Yeah,
like, wow,
exactly.
maybe it's not going to be that.
Yeah.
And like, it's funny that you get, if you don't have somebody that's reminding you of those things, it can be real easy for you to just expect that stuff. And that's where like the entitlement kind of stuff comes in, because there's nothing wrong with using the advantages that you have. Like you want to use every resource that you could possibly use. Like I do that in my life all the time. If I can lean on somebody for something, or ask somebody for a favor, or ask somebody for help, or skip a couple steps, that's what you want to do. So it's not like it's an issue, but it's when you don't realize that that's what's happening, you're not grateful for it, you don't identify that you didn't do this all by yourself there, buddy. That's where you start to get the guys that have that entitlement attitude and some of those problems that come on, right?
100%. Yeah, no, it's interesting to watch this, and it is you're that's a good point. It's good to be reminded, not in a vindictive way, but always remember where you're where you came from, I guess, and realize the things that you're fortunate for, because you know that was an issue for me when I played junior. I remember, I don't know if I ever talked about this with you. I probably did with you, but not on the podcast necessarily. But I had to work. And I'm not never complaining about that, right? Like as a youth, I had to work. I don't ever feel like poor me. I mean, I would have rather worked because had to make my own money, but had to make my own money because I had to make my own money. It was necessary. If I wanted to do anything outside of sleep in my house, I had to, for any benefit in life, I had to make my own money. There was no freebies for me, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. So I had to work. So I would feel sorry for myself or pissed off sometimes because I'd be slugging away working, and I'm going to say this. I don't want to say it ever again. I was a great hockey player, and the one advantage that I didn't have was just being able to get to a gym. Like that's wrong. I worked out at a gym, but I used to watch. I look at the kids now, and the priority is hockey first. And the parents that have good hockey players understand that. Like for my kid, it's like his job is hockey. But I remember for 2 summers, I was the mailman, right? So if anybody says maybe it's the mailman's kid, could have been me. Anyways, I was a mailman, and I remember seeing some of my buddies. I'd be slugging away in the heat, carrying I make it sound like that being a mailman is like working at underground asbestos or something. No, but I was slugging in the heat, and you're hours of the day. Later in the day, while I'm dragging my ass in the heat, I see a couple of buddies of mine that I played against stop in their car, say, "Hey, what time you done work and all that?" And go, "Oh, whatever." And what are you doing? "Oh, we're just gonna go work out now." And it's 11. They got up an hour ago, and then they get that workout in, and they didn't have to worry about that. And then they had a car to drive around, and it's like I didn't have that, so I'd be at work going, I wish I could just get up and go and get a workout in. That would be like really nice. Or I wish my first priority of the day was to be able to work out and get my hockey life taken care of. But I need to eat. As a kid, I needed to eat and take my girlfriend out once in a while. So, yeah. So there's advantages, but I remember that it was like
man, I like so clearly remember, like and it still happens to me now, just how much the goalposts shift. Like if you hit a certain thing that you wanted as a goal, you're just like right away onto wishing you had the next thing, or like, well, yeah, but if I had that, it'd be better, or if I had this, it'd be better. And it's crazy because it's so endless. You know, if you're a billionaire, you want to be a multi-billionaire, and it just keeps going on and on, no matter how high up the ladder on whatever metric you get. And so one that was stood out to me is I remember when we first were kind of doing the podcast, and I started trying to get like work with brands. BioSteel was actually one of the first ones that we reached out to. And so we had like whatever code that we could use, but it wasn't like a real working relationship, you know? Then when we started actually working with BioSteel, I remember it being so not like, it didn't feel like an accomplishment. Like it didn't feel like something that, hey, this was something I wanted to do for the last like 3 years, and that actually happened now. Yeah. And good. That didn't happen at all. That did not happen at all. You know, and for guys that you do one thing, you have like maybe a brief moment where it feels good, like you make a team or you made a jump to whatever, and then it's right back to, well, now like I should be on the power play now. Like, you know, I made the team, yeah, but like I should be playing the power play. You know, and it's like you're right away on to, well, why does he get to play on the power play? And like, how come he gets this? And like, he got more sticks than I did and all this stuff, you know? And it's so easy to just get into that looking for the next thing. So I guess my point, bringing it all the way back to Eichel at the start with the video, is you look at some of these guys that have, whether it's an intangible or kind of to your point, is they just have some kind of a benefit because of their life or who their parents are or what they do or what they have access to. There are other ways to get the thing that you want that doesn't have to be the same as somebody else. And it's not going to be the same as somebody else. You know, there's plenty of guys that play in the NHL that are not Jack Eichel, that didn't have nearly the same genetic advantage as Jack Eichel, and they figured it out. And I'm sure they had their own advantages in certain ways. But if you keep comparing to what everyone else has every step of the way, you'll never have any level of satisfaction in life with the things that you have. You know what I mean? You'll never have any gratitude. You'll never feel like, wow, I'm actually like in a pretty good spot. And for a lot of these kids, like my biggest thing is there's so many kids that we train that are really, really good kids. They're just good kids, and they're probably going to end up being good people and have some kind of good career in something. And it's not going to be hockey. And they think right now, like hockey, everything. And they don't realize like, and they're not mature enough to understand it yet, so it's okay. But like, you're doing a lot of other things that are good. You know, you're doing a lot of other things that are right, and it's going to lead you somewhere good. And I know right now it's just about hockey and all this stuff, but at some point it's not going to be, even if it is hockey for a while, and you'll be in a pretty good position later on. And it's unfortunate that isn't really something that is necessarily valued by a lot of these kids right now. Like some of these kids I'm sitting having conversations with over the last like couple of weeks. I'm like, man, you're just like a good kid, and I just want good things to happen to you. And I don't really care what it is. Like just something good should just happen to you, you know? And it's important that some of these kids hear that from somebody, you know, and somebody that's like not mom and dad. Like it's good to hear from mom and dad too. But like if you're somebody's coach or teacher or whatever, like that little bit of encouragement that you can give them, whether it's the thing that they think they care about or not, like that can, you know, make them just stop and think about like the position that they're actually in. Like I was talking to one kid the other day, and he's like one of my top, like love coaching this kid. He's awesome. And it's like, yeah, like he could end up running a family business one day. He could end up being an athlete in some other domain one day. He could end up pursuing hockey for several years one day. He's a smart kid. He could go to school and do something with that one day. And I'm like sitting across the table, like listening to him talk about what he thinks he wants to do. And the hockey landscape is, you know, it's so confusing, and he doesn't have like a clear path of where he's going to be next year. And we're talking about all this stuff. And I'm just sitting like listening to him talk. And I'm like, man, it's crazy. I didn't say this to him, obviously, but I was like, it's crazy how much this like doesn't even matter. Like this whole conversation this doesn't matter, because at some point you're going to be doing something that's really great because you're just a good kid and you got a good head on your shoulders and you have good tools to solve problems for yourself already. I'm like, that's what I want to say to that kid, but I can't because I need to talk to you about hockey.
Yeah,
right
you
now,
got to be
you
hockey
know?
right now.
And so
that's what the focus is.
Yeah, for sure. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
No.
Like I'm not saying that. No. It's just like that's kind of in the back of my mind coming from an older, maybe more mature perspective. It's like I'm looking at this kid and that's what I'm thinking when I'm talking to him. It's like whatever happens with hockey literally doesn't matter because you have all of this other opportunity that's going to come your way because you're doing good things right now, you know? And so I try to give them some of that encouragement in the context of hockey because that's what they care about. And if I start talking about other stuff, they're going to be like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
But,
hockey's the most important thing.
yeah. But so it's interesting to kind of see that and how they develop over time. And I'm going to start to get that now where like a lot of these guys that I've trained are going to be done hockey soon. And then I'll get to see like what happened, you know? So kind of like you always talk about, you run into people later on
It's
and
pretty
see what they're
neat.
doing, and it's kind of cool, right? No, it's all good.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
So, so on that note, just one thing I wanted to talk about quick because this is kind of happening right now. A lot of guys are going through camps, and which is so annoying to me because like all these camps are like right now at the same time, and like these kids have to pick what to do and where to go, and they all overlap, and they got to prioritize what they need to prioritize and whatever. But anyways, what's happening now is a lot of kids are getting cut from teams. They're getting released. They're not making it to the final thing. They're not getting invited back to main camp and whatever.
So this is at a junior level you're talking?
Yeah, junior level. But even AAA, like tryouts and stuff just finished too, right? So like kids have gotten cut that thought they were going to make a certain team, and now there's open borders and they got to go around another team and try to figure it out and whatever. And a lot of, I've been talking with some of these kids for me at the junior level that haven't gone on, they haven't made a main camp or whatever. They got cut at, and maybe thought they could have done better or gone farther. And like the reality of the competitiveness of making junior teams and how many players there are and what the junior teams think, and some of the feedback that I'm getting from the players and their parents on their experiences at some of these camps. And these would be like more camps that matter a little bit more. Like it's not just like the moneymaker camps where it's like just show up with a bajillion kids and whatever. It's like they're actually trying to evaluate for their team now, so it's a little bit more serious. And the level,
you're basically taking the big pool of people and you're shrinking it down to maybe a top 40, 50.
Right.
Okay.
And it's like, so a lot of these kids that think they were going to be in the top 40, 50 aren't. And that's like now a reality. And for a lot of these kids that just went through the draft that got drafted, they're going to get their reality over the next several weeks as they realize there's really not that many spots in junior. And just because you got drafted doesn't really mean a whole lot beyond you get your foot in the door. Like you say, you have an opportunity and there's a team that has identified you and all that stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about the mindset, the disappointment, the emotions, and then the solutions isn't the right word, but like the next steps after you're in that situation. So I'm thinking of one kid in particular at the moment where he thought he had several different options, and then all of a sudden he actually doesn't really have any options. And right away, talking to one of these kids, it was like, he didn't say this, but the mentality was like, I might as well just quit. You know, I might as well just quit. So if you're dealing with that kid, let's maybe start there. It's like, if you're dealing with that kind of kid, like what are some of the, maybe the not even necessarily the words you'd give to him just yet, but just like the thoughts about that and handling that as the player, as the parent, and like kind of walking through that kind of situation.
So if you had if the attitude was like, I might as well just quit, and you're 17 years old, let's say?
You're one of these kids. Like you were expecting, maybe you weren't even expecting to make the team, but you were expecting to go to main camp.
You know? I would always say this is the number one thing. I would say it to my kid. I would say it to him if he came to me tomorrow and he said, I don't think I can be a pro hockey player, Dad. I think I'm going to quit. I'd say, okay, that's fair enough. I think everybody gets to that point at some point. Like, it's a decision you make. It's a fork in the road, and you take it or you don't, right? And but the bottom line is, like, the first question would be like, obviously there's something that's rubbing you the wrong way. You're pissed off, all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is, what did you play the game for? And if you love the game, not like it. If you love the game, then just love the game. Play hockey because you love it. And you got and I understand, like for me, I was that, like, when it got to the point where I realized, okay, you're not going to play in the National Hockey League, I was done because I was good. And then I said, well, if it was that or bust. I was done. And maybe if I had someone around me saying, yeah, but this, but I knew in my head I was done. Like, for me, I knew I was done. So did I love hockey? Probably at that point, no, not anymore. I probably didn't love the game. I love the game, but I probably didn't like the other stuff that goes on. I'm not saying that was a bad thing. It's just um, I was done. So that's what the first thing I would say is, like, do you love the game? If you love the game, you need to continue to play. And then, because the passion for the game is number one. Number two, and maybe it rekindle things, and maybe you're just in a bad spot. So quitting the game would not be the thing you want to do. Take a minute to reflect, and then the life lesson comes after that, right? As a parent, it wouldn't be just like, here's your advice, go do it. It'd be like, okay, so here's the thing in life, is that this is something that you love, and no one said, unless maybe someone told them it was going to be easy, but no one said it was going to be easy. In fact, it might be one of the hardest things you're ever going to do. So why don't you take the challenge of thing that you love and do it as hard as you can for as long as you can, and take the ups and the downs, and take the learning lessons of, okay, I thought I was here, but apparently I'm not. But I love it so much that I'm willing to do something to get to there, and I want to solve some problems. And I want to pursue my passion. And what does that mean? That's where, it's the David Goggins things, right? You got to sit down by yourself, pen and paper, no one else around, no other thoughts, and look at yourself and just say, what is it? So is it my skating? Do I work hard? Like, just break things apart. If that's the deepest part, right? But look at, what do I need to fix if I really want to do this? And do it.
So why would you say, we're getting more into like the philosophical, which is where I like to be. Why would you say, you said if you love the game, you should keep playing? Why? Why not say, because like, if we're having a like actual real conversation, the number of kids, if you get cut from a junior B camp and you're 17 years old, like the likelihood that you're going to go on and be pro or get something out of hockey is like very, very, very low. If at that point you're not. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, because it definitely happens. So from that perspective, if you go play by the numbers way, it's like, okay, this isn't really going to work out in all likelihood anyways. So why do you think it's important that if you still love to play, or if you still love the game, why should you keep playing? Why shouldn't it just be pack it in and go pivot and start learning to love something else?
Well, we put reality into hockey. We should tell all our kids to quit at 3. That's why.
Yeah.
Because we love hockey. Hockey is one of the greatest things you can do. It's a great game. So why would you want to quit something and have regrets and not push yourself and enjoy yourself? So that would be my number one thing is if you love the game, that's why you should be playing. And even as a NHL player and a really good prospect or whatever it is, you could say that you don't love the game anymore, and I get that part, because I was there at some point. You play because it's a job, you play because of this, play because of that, but at the end of the day, you don't have a lot to compare it to if you're a pro, right? You play because you love the game, more or less, and the more that you play for the love of the game, the better off you're going to be, like, playing it, right? So I just think the joy of hockey, like anybody that is playing just to make the NHL. I mean, maybe there are people like that, but I mean, there's a reality check there. So just, if you're 14 and you're playing to make the NHL and that's why you're playing, you're not probably having fun anyways. So anyways, I would just say, because you love the game. You love the game. Why would you do something that you don't love? Why would you quit something that you love? Does that make sense? Yeah. Why would you quit something that you love? Like if you got in an argument with your wife that you actually loved her, like you actually loved her, not pretend to love her, but you actually loved her, and you had an argument about something one day and she just said, like, I'm just whatever, and it just pissed you off, and that was like, okay, well, I'm done. It's like, well, for one thing, right? There's bigger pictures, and but the other thing is, like, if you love something, this is the other thing, is if you love the game and you quit because you didn't play pro, like, you're missing the point. I'm not saying don't, if you want to be a pro, that should be your number one goal, or to get a college education or whatever. Like you need to shoot for it, but you're missing the point. And there's so many things there's so many lessons that come in the game, right? So many lessons. So if you do something that you love and you learn, okay, just because I love something doesn't mean it always works out. Like, there's going to be hard things in everything that you do. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. But like, think about this. If you can quit something that you love just because it didn't work out, what would you do if something you don't love and something goes wrong? And in life, most things you're not in love with, right? Like jobs, all kinds of things. not in love with it. So it's like you just quit then. Well, if that's the way you approached everything, you quit because you don't love it enough.
You'll never do anything.
Well, then you never do anything. And that's what I say to kids all the time. I said, if you can tell me that you love hockey and you come to the rink and you're 5 minutes late and you're not excited and you don't work hard and it's a chore to do a skating drill and this, that, and the other thing, I say, you don't love it. But if you say that you love it and this is how you treat something that you love, I don't even want to see how you're going to treat things that you don't love. This should be the easiest thing you ever do as a youth hockey player. If you love hockey, should be like no question.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that was going to be probably the only other thing I would add is like, you don't know. Well, I was going to say what you said about kind of like the lessons and things you can learn from the thing you love. And those are great points. I don't think I would have said it in the same way, which is good. But the only other thing I was going to add is like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like if it's something you are enjoying doing, then for all of the things that you just said, plus if you keep going, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to catch a good break or get a really good coach that changes your life or meet somebody that it becomes really significant to you one day, or like you don't know what is going to happen when you explore that path till the end. And like if there's one thing just anecdotally for me, and you kind of said the same thing, is like you kind of know when the end is. When the end is there, you kind of know like I'm good, you know, and you can stop without the regret. You can stop without the looking back on the things that you didn't do and all of that with like, man, I wish that would have been different and all that, you know, that kind of goes away because you took it to the natural end when internally you feel that, okay, I'm good. Like this is the end of the road. If you don't do that, like then you stop early and you're going to end up looking back and kicking yourself because to your point, you've been saying a lot over the last several weeks is like, you just have a small window to be an athlete and really pursue that. And like you can take over dad's business or mom's business later. You can go to school later. You can get a job in something else later. You know, all of that stuff. You have the rest of your life for all of that stuff. You know,
we have one of our kids. I will never say his name right now, but one of Charlie's good buddies. We talked about this the other day. Loves hockey. Works his ass off. Might work harder than my kid. Right? He puts everything he possibly can into being a hockey player, but the bottom line is he's just not talented, right? You know what I'm talking about? And he's bounced around a little bit, not chasing like in a bad way, but chasing like where's my next move to get up? And it's like you're not good enough to get that offer, the NCAA offer. And then when the OHL and the NCAA took OHL people was like I can't catch a break, but he's got the brains and time management and the work ethic, and he has an opportunity to go to. And at first, when he was talking to Charlie, he goes like, "But I don't know about this, that, the other thing." And Charlie, as a friend, said, "Dude, this is your ticket. This is your freaking ticket, because you're not going to play in the NHL. You know that. You've been dying to go to NCAA Division I school. This is that, plus you're a genius and you've always wanted to be an engineer or something like that or something crazy." He goes,
"That's crazy, dude. I didn't know that. That's wild."
Yeah.
Good
so
for
he's
him.
like, he was contemplating, maybe I'll just quit and go to school. And it's like that is sitting there, and then he takes his buddy. Yeah. So what are you stupid? You're
No shit.
Smartest guy. You're the smartest guy. No, like you got my dumb kid. He's dumb. No, he's a smart dummy.
Yeah.
Dumb and smart. What is he? What would you call it?
He's
Hockey player.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, very, very smart, but dumb. But you got the dumb guy in the room looking at the book smart guy going, "Are you dumb? You got a full ride with and you go there a little bit, but you're not. You're as a engineer and stuff like that. If you and school paid for the best, and then you can walk out of there with a job.
Oh my god!
Or you could do a career there. So, anyways, yeah,
that's crazy. So I'm not trying to get you off track. I don't
know
know
it's
that.
okay, but that's the point. Love. You love the game, and then to your point, you never know what's going to happen. I as you were telling that story, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I was 30. Let me think here. 30. Christine was in the picture, so mid 30s. Hadn't played hockey in years, and clinics and camps and all this stuff, and people were yapping about me. Anyways, I got a call from an agent about I could get you back in the game. You just never know. And I said, I can't play hockey right now. And he's like, no. I heard this. I said, dude, it's all good. I have no. I was actually like, scratch a little bit, but I'm like, no, I'm not a hockey player anymore. I'm too old for this, and I'm that's an amateur telling you that, or whoever's speaking of me is, I appreciate the compliment, but I'm not running anything in the NHL right now, like to be a pro. So my time has passed, but I was reality. But you never know. That's what I'm saying. You never know. And for me, I loved and this is the other thing, is that you just never know what other opportunities, or you maybe if you quit, like all the lessons, you love something and you love the game and all this stuff. Like if your kid plays, like if you just quit, there's no lessons in that, except for the lesson is, son, I quit and I did my record. I regret it. It's like, there's so many things that could happen from hockey. And I'm not saying you're going to get a career out of anything, but it brings you a lot. And then, you know what, you might have a kid and you stayed involved, and all of a sudden you can relate to your kid and do something well. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, well, the other thing that's slightly off topic but kind of related, we were talking about this earlier today too, is like with these opportunities, like the importance of going to seek out some feedback and talk to the people that are like your coaches or potential bosses or whatever, and actually making that connection to have the conversation. Like I was saying to some of these guys that we took this Matterhorn thing, and then we were talking about another guy earlier. I forget who we were talking about, or we were mentioning that, but anyways, actually trying to get some feedback from these things. So a lot of these kids coming back from these camps are saying like, yeah, the coach didn't say anything. It's like, well, did you ask? Did you go talk to them? Like, ideally, the coach has an individual meeting with everybody and has a detailed breakdown of your game. The reality is that they either don't have enough time to do that or they don't want to, right? So go fight for it, man. Like, go fight for it a little bit. And I'm not sitting here telling kids that when I was their age, I was doing it either, because I probably wasn't. But going and trying to speak and have the conversation and get some feedback is like so important, man. Like, just try to force yourself to do it, even though it's uncomfortable. And I remember being a teenager and not wanting to do it. I don't want to go talk to my coach. I don't want to go meet this person. I don't want to go shake that guy's hand. I don't want to say hello. As now the adult, how much I value that. If a kid does that to me, it's very, very important. If you have an opportunity to do that you go and try to do that. I got two kids that are going to junior B camp on the weekend, and I reached out to, I know the coach, so I was talking to him a little bit, and those guys got his number to send him a text before the camp. If something comes out of it, great. If not, doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt that you know the guy and they know you by name, right? So those kinds of things are important. So like, last thing to just close it out maybe is practically speaking now, like outside of the mindset piece and all the things we just talked about, if you're in that position where, like, let's say you thought you had a bunch of opportunities and now you don't anymore, but you still have a couple, maybe they weren't your first choice. What's the practical thing you would say to some of these kids that maybe they thought they were gonna play at a junior B level, or something, and now they're not? What do you say to those kids about what should they look to do, and what should they be prioritizing from a hockey perspective to still try to put themselves in a position to progress and succeed later?
It's going to depend on what you want, right? Do you want to play for fun, or do you want to still pursue something? If you're still pursuing something, then you play at the best level that you possibly can. That's it. Play at the best level that you possibly can, and or the best position that you could possibly be in. So you could, if it happens to be the U18, the minor midget team, or whatever it is, or the junior B team where you thought you were going to play in the OHL or whatever, then you have to go there with you just do. I mean, it's not, no one likes to get cut, and it sucks, but it's a sign that says you didn't do enough or you're not good enough. So you have to be better at some level. So at that level that you're at, you have to do, hopefully, like you said, get some feedback on what you think could be better, and then be honest with yourself that you need to stand out. There's obviously something that you need to stand out with. So it's very clear, just based on being cut. Well, unless you're a pure goal scorer and do nothing else, right? That you're not an offensive player. So you need to increase it, I would say, physically or defensively, or on a forecheck or something. You have to do something to really, really stand out. But in that time, you have to play the best you can and learn and be dedicated and do everything that you did better. It is what it is, right? So and then the other thing of evaluating what place is the best place. I think maybe your option's only one, and that's where you need to go. But if you still have a goal, dream, and love the game, and you want to get somewhere with hockey, then that's where you are. It is what it is. That's where you are. Like, do you think the overage player in the OHL looks around and knows that he might be better than other players that have signed and they were drafted ahead of him, is sitting there going, yeah, I'm so happy to go back to the OHL this year as an overage while that guy's making 90 or 300,000 or $3 million. But in order for him to have the opportunity to make $3 million or 90,000 in the American League or whatever, he needs to be one more year where he's at, possibly, apparently. And there's something that you need to do better to stand out. So you got to figure it out, and it sucks.
So one of the this might be a challenging question to answer, but one of the things that I know comes into the math for a lot of the families, if you're a kid that could be playing their first or second year of junior B, but instead, at least in Ontario, you have to go back to a AAA program, or you have to go back to a prep program or whatever, and you have to pay. There's like now a way higher barrier for a lot of these families to be willing to pay more money now at the age that they're at. So what would you say about the math on that? If you have, you could go back to a good program that maybe is more expensive to go back and play a AAA program or a prep program or whatever versus a low level junior or whatever that's just cheaper and kind of a dead end, like that kind of vibe. What are your thoughts about that, making the investment for one more year
as a parent?
Yeah, as a parent, as a player,
that's not really a hard question.
Okay, great.
And the reason that's not a hard question, because if you're like, I would hope most parents aren't just trying to get their kids to be a pro. I mean, if you're playing low level and you're U18, and if that's the level that you're at, you're probably not projected to be a first line on the Dallas Stars, right? So, but what like as a parent? No, seriously though, right? As a parent, what do you want for your kid? Like, if they're serious about hockey still, that's the greatest tool you could ever have as a parent, because now it's like it eliminates all the shit in life, right? That love for hockey. If your kid has a love for hockey, as a parent, that's your leverage, and it's not using it, like in a manipulative way, but that's your leverage. Mom, I'm going out to Dave's house and he's having a little party. Oh yeah, same as my kid was with the dance, right? Who's going to be there? What do you have this weekend? And you let him answer a few questions. And if he forgets, you can always remind him, like, you said you wanted to have this hockey thing, right? And it's like, it keeps them in the lines. And to me, I'll take that any day as a parent. If I know that my son is I have a little bit of leverage that he's going to be focused on hockey and hang out with kids that have a little bit of focus instead of people that could just go out and smoke this and drink that and screw this and all that kind of stuff, then I'd rather have my kid in the line. So if it's $5,000 to save my kid's life for one more year, I'll do it 1,000%.
So I'm trying to, again, be very careful about my own opinions, because I have not had to shell out 20 grand for a kid to play a sport. But this is where I would defer to you again. If that is the case, and it's like, this is like an expensive program, what do you feel about like the kind of the value for the dollar of, I guess basically what I'm saying is my question to the parents would be, what is the point of paying for them to be in sports? Because if it's hockey, for example, wherever you play hockey, it doesn't matter where, if it's any good, it's expensive. It's extremely expensive. So if it's 10 grand versus 15 grand, maybe like that actually makes or breaks you. That's fine. And that's fine. If it's 10 versus 15 and like it's a done deal, I can't do it for more than that, then that I totally can appreciate that. But if you're somebody who is like, you could still do it, but like now it's getting pricey, but like you could still do it. I'm more talking about that pool, because obviously if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. It is what it is. But for people that can make the choice, I guess my question is like, what do you think you're getting for your money? That's kind of what the question is that I would pose to the parents. So if you're paying, well, I could go play here and it's $7,000. If I go play there, it's $11,000. So it's not necessarily the case that the $7,000 one is the better choice because it's cheaper, because maybe it doesn't do all the things that you just are talking about. Maybe that program doesn't actually allow you to use it because all the kids that are on that team don't give a rip and the environment isn't good anymore and whatever. So there's like a quality a quality decision or discussion that needs to happen there too. Like, what is this actually doing for the kid? And that doesn't mean you always have to pay for the more expensive thing either. That's not what I'm saying either. But it's just something worth thinking about from the parent side. And on the player side, like I was saying this to one kid the other day too. It's like you've taken this, like he's gonna be, the one that I'm thinking of is like is 17 or gonna be 17 or whatever. It's like you've taken it so far already. Like you've probably invested 12 years into hockey right now. And it's like, so now you're just gonna stop. You know, when you're right on the border of like making the jump, and like now you're gonna stop, or like for as parents, it's like now you're gonna stop caring the most about it. You know, when this is like arguably the most critical time to be invested. That's kind of where my brain goes. Now I don't know. Is that unfair?
No. But like so the other side is so when you ask that and you phrased a few things, like first of all, I would have, so with my kids growing up, if he wasn't a high end player where there was actual potential, I probably wouldn't have put him in AAA. Like I wouldn't have done that to him or to me, because that like to me, playing without being a really good player, for the only challenge would be a AAA level in youth hockey. Like if he was a third line guy or even mid pack, it'd be like, okay, you're not going anywhere. So, and that's okay, right? I know a lot of people say, yeah, but how do you know? It's like, well, anyways, I wouldn't invest. It's like I said a couple podcasts ago, my daughter was in volleyball and track. It's like, I'm not going to invest all kinds of money into someone that is like somewhat interested. You better be interested. And this might got to be your focus. So as a dad and a mom, if my son wasn't like good enough to be a really good AAA player, like that, you don't need to play AAA just to play hockey, right? So that's number one. So then if it came to 18 years old or 17 years old and he was at a point where it was making a decision on the hockey, it's like I wouldn't have got to that, because I wouldn't have let myself get to that, because there's no point in playing, like in my opinion with my kid, he wouldn't have been a AAA player. So we would have had other issues. I would have steered him into, okay, you could play hockey for fun because that's what you are, but you're going to learn how to do this, this, and this so you can do something successful in life, and that's your fun, right? So like that's a difference that I would have. And then for cutting someone off, I mean, there's a reality to everything, right? So I mean, so going back to that, it keeps my kid out of trouble for one more year. I mean, it's good, but then at the same time, I would have positioned it, I think, more along the lines is like, son, you're not a hockey player. You're not a hockey player, like at 12, or you need to do a lot more to be a hockey player, right? But if they're yeah. So I don't know. I probably answered that in a weird way, but
no, it's good to get your thoughts. But I guess the thing is like when it's all very circumstantial and like person dependent, right? So there's not going to be a blanket answer, but like, what is the time where it's like, okay, I'm not going to keep paying X amount of dollars. So like, let's say you had a kid that was good, right? And like they were a higher end AAA player and it was worth paying the money because of whatever. But then you get to 16, 17 and it's like, okay, it's not, you're not on the junior team on the same trajectory as when you were younger. What's the cutoff point? Like, what is the point where it's okay, I'm not going to pay X number, whatever the number is per family, whatever.
So, but that's a fair question. And the answer to that question is like, this is what's the beautiful thing about hockey. This is how you test someone's desire or their willingness to be there. Like, most people take things in life if they're free. So maybe it's the time to talk to your kid and say, listen, I know you love hockey. We love watching you play hockey. We can't afford this anymore. So, you're going to have to meet us in the middle somewhere, or 70, you had to make $1,000 to pay this summer to pay for your thing. If the kid really wants to play, he'll play. And that says something, right? You know what I mean? There's lessons, there's different ways. Like there's no cut and dry anything. There's ways, and there's conversations with your kids. And this is the biggest thing is there's conversations you can have. If the kid's got a little bit of set of nuts on them, maybe you can go up to the organization and say like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. I need some help. And maybe if you're good enough, they say, yeah, we'll help you. Like you don't know, right? There's conversations. And this is what I think is very important about being a dad, being a coach. is it's not just like, that's why I sometimes when I give answers, I don't like to just say it, and I think a little bit after, because I think of what the other dad or the guy watching the clip is going to say, and he goes, well, I would do this. It's like, it's more than just a decision. And like, we had to do, I'll be frank, I'll be Andy too, but I'll be frank. Like, there was one time Charlie and I were talking about this, and the truth thing about this is, like, I did not give two shits about his school. I'm a bad dad, maybe, I don't know. I could not care less, because I always looked at, he's doing something, like, even this, I'm talking when he was young. He was dedicated to hockey, and I got through life without hockey. I never believed, and maybe I'm an asshole. I never believed like education is really good if you can use education, but I saw so many people go get school and then do a lot less than me. Right. So I was like, he's a smart kid. He's got some street smarts, plays, whatever. And this might be wrong in some houses, but in my house, I knew my kid. He was me. That's the only thing, that one thing, hockey is going to keep him in between the lines. Right. And people solve things different ways. And that's that. So why was I saying that? There's a point.
Well, because we were talking about what it takes. Like, when do you cut off, and when do you say, I'm not going to pay for this anymore, meet me halfway, do some, like, you might have to pay for it and whatever. And then you started talking about the school thing.
Yeah. And I don't know why, but it was like, that's, so if I would have just taken that away from him and said, no, we're listening to your mom, no hockey. It's like, it's the worst thing I could have did. And really, at the end of the day, in my mind, if he didn't get a 94% in grade 7, it doesn't actually freaking matter to me. That's the way I looked at it, right? So for some other parent, it might be no, like, so that was for him. But like, if he was not really good at hockey, well, guess what, son? You can't have a 4 in art like I did, right? You can't. We're gonna have to have a discussion, because I got nothing else.
There's got to be something else.
There's nothing else to keep you in the lines.
Okay, if I'm trying to get your point,
I don't know.
No, I think your point being, you need to have something to keep in between the lines, because it started off as the argument of like, hey, if I pay for this for one more year, it keeps them out of shit. You're saying if it's hockey that does that, great. If it wasn't going to be hockey, because you could have identified that when they were younger, then you would have pushed it into something else to keep in between the lines.
Well, 100%.
Right.
And these would have been the conversations.
Right.
It's like, okay, these are the conversations. Like, okay, then we got to find a middle somewhere. We got to find something that can make everybody happy here. We got to,
or just what's good. Like, you could see for your kid, like he like you just said it was something that would keep him between the lines. 100%. And like, if you didn't see that, then maybe you would have been a little bit more on the, okay, maybe we got to make sure he's doing something with school, because he doesn't give a shit about anything else or something, right?
You see how you are with a hammer.
Yeah, right.
And you can start building some shit or whatever, yeah.
So anyways, I thought because that's just like a current thing that's going on, I'm having a lot of these conversations right now. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful, just to walk through a little bit of the mindset of getting through some of these like very emotional times for the teenagers. Because, man, I was talking to this kid the other day, and I'm just like, man, he is just so disappointed. Like, so disappointed. Yeah. And just, that happens to a lot of kids. So just trying to give them some tools to maybe work through it. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm going to stop, and then we'll, talk again another time. Bye.